Hey everyone, short episode today, but we're jumping back into Anatomy of the State, and we're almost done, and I'll save the last two chapters for tomorrow. But today we're talking about what it is the state fears. But before we discuss that, really think about the idea here. The state does have things to fear. Even in a democracy where it's relatively difficult to relinquish dictators of power, there are things actively happening behind the scenes to shut down opposing opinions. We all know this. So the state comes about in only two ways, as Murray notes, and that's through the conquest by another state or through revolutionary overthrow by its own subjects. And the point here is that in any scenario, whether it be the first or the second, the state needs to maintain the support of its constituents. And there's a reason for that, one being, if you're a country or territory that's about to go to war, you need to rally up support, not just for nationalistic purposes, but to actually recruit people to go fight in the first place. Wars need soldiers, and when that doesn't work, use military conscription. Or most people know this as the draft. And by the way, thanks FDR, there was and still was no authority granted to the government to conscript people into military service against their will. Absolutely none. Conscription is slavery. But think about this. You'd be considered a traitor if you defended yourself against forcibly being used as a pawn in wartime. So the way Murray puts it, quote, the fallacy of the idea becomes evident when conscription is wielded against those who refuse to defend themselves and are, therefore, forced into joining the state's military band. Needless to add, no defense is permitted them against this act of their own state. So there can't be morally based decisions in this kind of atmosphere. It doesn't exist. Anything government does is immoral because government can't possibly have the consent of everyone at once. So it's a really simple concept to grasp, but you can imagine why opponents need to attack this so viciously. They feel like it does make them look bad because it does. Now, Randolph Bourne wrote a piece in 1918 titled The State, and supposedly it was left unfinished at the time of Bourne's death, but nonetheless. This is honestly what I and what Murray consider to be a paramount work in regards to what the state actually is. And the anatomy of the state is the attempt to decipher this leviathan that we're forced to live under. So if you ever hear the phrase, war is the health of the state, that's Randolph Bourne. So bonus points if you could throw that out in a debate with your friends. So obviously it's in the state's interest to protect the state. Nothing complicated about this idea. But here's the important question Murray posed, and I'm quoting the entire last paragraph. We may test the hypothesis that the state is largely interested in protecting itself rather than its subjects by asking, which category of crimes does the state pursue and punish most intensely? Those against private citizens or those against itself? The gravest crimes in the state's lexicon are almost invariably not invasions of private person or property, but dangers to its own contentment. For example, treason, desertion of a soldier to the enemy, failure to register for the draft, subversion of subversive conspiracy, assassination of rulers, and such economic crimes against the state as counterfeiting its money or evasion of its income tax. Or compare the degree of zeal devoted to pursuing the man who assaults a policeman with the attention that the state pays to the assault of an ordinary citizen. Yet curiously, the state's openly assigned priority to its own defense against the public strikes few people as inconsistent with its presumed raison d'etre. One more thing I'll mention is a quote from H.L. Mencken in the footnotes, and it goes like this. This gang is well nigh immune to punishment. Its worst extortions, even when they are baldly for private profit, carry no certain penalties under our laws. Since the first days of the Republic, less than a few dozen of its members have been impeached, and only a few obscure understrappers have ever been put into prison. The number of men sitting in Atlanta and Leavenworth for revolting against the extortions of the government is always 10 times as great as the number of government officials condemned for oppressing the taxpayers to their own gain. Tomorrow, we're going to discuss how states relate to one another, and the last chapter is titled History as a Race Between State Power and Social Power. Take this knowledge and go use it to change someone's minds today. This is Stephen Clyde, as always, for Peace in the World. Hey everyone, please like, follow, donate, subscribe, and share. Any donations will be used to reach more people.